Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Love All. Maybe as you can see, I'm in an old little farmhouse in Belgium. Last few days before Jada goes off to Sweden for her European Championships, and we follow her in a couple of days. So, I feel like my European part of the trip is slowly coming to an end.
I feel like that's the perfect backdrop for it, Kim. That looks like it's straight out of a magazine.
Really? Yes.
I wish I was there. That looks like a great vacation spot.
Yeah, we have sheep around us, horses, cows, a lot of pear trees, and it's a beautiful place to be at. Just no air conditioning, so hence the glistening of my skin.
You have stayed consistent in that being the only negative has been no air conditioning. But good news, Kim, the dewy look is very in. So the glistening is good.
All right, thanks.
Sure. And you also, just before we went on air, showed us something that you came across, I guess. Anyway, I would love for our listeners to be able to hear it because I thought it was so cool.
Well, a couple of days ago, Blake, he collects the Panini stickers for the World Cup book. And he opened one and a card, and he says, "Hey, Opa, like this is my dad right there." And that's from England against Belgium in 1990. So cool. He opened that. And I have a little plastic kind of, whatever you call that, little folder where I keep some of the things in my wallet that were from my dad. And I have a note in here that's like old, but it's from 2005. And when my dad never visited me, like when I was playing at the US Open, and he came to Stanford and San Diego, and then he flew home. And I was still in San Diego, and he kind of just said, "Hey, Kim, sleep well. It was a great 2 weeks. 2 more weeks of hard work, and you'll be first in the series, and then you can win the US Open. Greetings to Brian. Kiss his dad. I'm still tired. You're a beautiful, great daughter. Just a little messy." Like that's what he wrote. So I carry this with me in my wallet all the time. And now I have a little added Panini sticker card that I can add to that. So
and then you did win the US Open is the punchline here.
That's the craziness. Like I actually did win it, and I won the US Open series. That was like the first time where they did that, I think, if you won the series, and it was like double prize money if you won it. And so I ended up winning it that year. So that's always in my wallet with me.
That is so cute. And also, like, I need to fan myself so I don't get teary. That's so special. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right, Kim. Well, shall we get into what we've got going on this week? Things are heating up figuratively and literally. We had some first-time champions last week. So we had Luca van Asch winning in Estoril, Alice in Kitzbühel. Side note, did you see the Kitzbühel trophy, Kim?
I did not.
It is a bedazzled deer. And I'm just going to put it on record that should anyone want to send me, I don't know, a bedazzled deer, I would take it. But it's so funny that it's a men's tournament and they're, hoisting this sparkly deer. Anyway, that's a story for another day. But also on the women's side, Lilli Tagger won her first title at just 18 years old, and Tammy Korpach also won in Hamburg. So curious if you have any thoughts on those results? What stuck out to you?
Yeah, well, I definitely think Lilli Tagger's win was something that really stood out for me and was very exciting to see. And I feel like it was already a couple of months ago, right before the French Open, that we had her coach Francesca Schiavone on, and just to hear her talk about their partnership and the relationship between a player and coach, like a former player who's been working with her for quite some time now already, and to see it have the results that take the steps where you wanted to go at such a young age is really, really great to see, and happy for the two of them. And I feel like there's a couple of youngsters that are doing really well, and from that age, I think Jeline van Dromme from Belgium, also she's now, I think, 130 in the world, like going up in the ranking. So really nice to see some of the youngsters really, doing well. I think they're from the same year, and I think Iva Jovic is obviously the number one in that spot. But really cool to see that these younger players are building their confidence and learning from the matches that they're playing against these top players. Lilli Tagger beating Barbora Krejcikova as well, which is a huge confidence booster, knowing that you can beat some of those players. So it's really, really interesting to see. And I think these are definitely Lilli and Yelin, they're definitely some of the youngsters that I have my eye on and always see like when they, when they're in the draw, like who do they play and what is that matchup like?
Yeah, Tagger is now the youngest in the top 50 and also the highest ranked player with a one-handed backhand, Kim. Long live the one-hander. So
that's
love
right.
to see it.
I don't
love to see it in more ways than one.
If people saw Blair's post, when was it, a couple of days ago? Yes. Like I never realized, like I've seen you hit tennis balls, but like a lot of comparisons to Steffi Graf. Like I love it.
Kim, this will be the first and last time anyone uses my name and Steffi Graf in the same sentence.
No. You can't tell me that. Nobody.
Ella, clip that for me and just let me listen to it and watch it whenever I'm feeling down.
Blair, you can't tell me that nobody has ever shown you like that you did not try to like move like Steffi.
No, I tried to move like you, Kim, and you saw no joke.
Well, Steffi was my inspiration. Like well, Carl used to show me Steffi videos all the time. But I felt like the one-hander, the slice, like the forehand, like there's so many similarities. Man, so for those who are curious, go back, or maybe you should just post it on one of your whatever you call that. Not
I'll
the story,
see what I can
do.
Oh my gosh. Well, I appreciate that, Kim. And we get to now go into what's happening this week, some of our other headlines, and then I get to ask him my burning questions, which includes Jannik Sinner's decision to sit out in Toronto. So we'll get to that in just a bit. But the DC draws this week, Kim, are packed. Probably the most notable results to come out of DC. It's obviously early in the week, but it was the fact that Frances Tiafoe lost to Terrence Attman in 3 sets. And we've talked about this before, Kim, but you liked playing in front of your home crowd. But can it not also be stressful? Was it ever stressful for you, or it was all positive?
No, it's definitely stressful. I remember, especially after the Australian Open, we had, the biggest tournament that we've had in Belgium was in Antwerp, and talking about what you mentioned before, the bedazzled trophy of the deer. We had the diamond tennis racket that was like the big trophy there. And I loved it. Like it was stressful and I felt pressure. And because, from the moment that the tickets were, being sold, within 45 minutes, the whole week was sold out. So I felt pressure of like, oh, they're expecting me to be there in the final. And the same for Justine, like she played it a couple of times as well. And it was, so I felt pressure in that sense, right? For the tournament, for the sponsors, like a lot of the people I knew, like personally. And so I felt very responsible to try and like, I'm not saying save the tournament, but at least like, be there and give the crowd what they are hoping for. And, so it made me very locked in. A lot of times I also, because it was so close to either Fed Cup at the time or the Australian Open, I remember being in Antwerp and like having to call the doctor, like always came up with like a little throat infection or a little flu-y like after the long flight. So it was a lot in a short amount of time, but I loved playing there. Loved playing with some of my greatest emotions on court or before, like walking out of like goosebumps, like almost in tears of like the overwhelming support I experienced there in Antwerp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know that Frances has a lot of those feelings as well. And I mean, who knows how many tickets they're giving Frances, because he is friends with pretty much the entire city. The state. Yes. The whole District of Columbia. But yeah, I know that he has never performed as well as he has wanted to perform in DC. And I do wonder if there is pressure just associated with the fact that he feels pressure based on the sponsors and friends and people coming to support him to do well at his home tournament. So always interesting to see both sides of that debate. Well, Kim, the U.S. Open has announced the entry list for the mixed doubles tournament this year. It's the second year of this revised mixed doubles format. And the entries are open until August 17th. So there is still time to add and subtract to this list. But I am going to read to you these teams, Kim, and I would love to get your reactions. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Djokovic, Sabalenka, Draper, Pegula, Peyton Stearns and Preston Stearns, that is her brother who's currently playing at Ohio State, the Ohio State University, Taylor Townsend and Zverev, Rybakina, Taylor Fritz, Bencic, Kaboli, Irani, Vavasori, Ayala, Auger-Aliassime, Ruud, Swiatek, Fernandez, Tiafoe, Osaka, Nishikori, Schneider, Medvedev, Anisimova, Tien, Siniakova, Henry Patton. Well, I'm going to let you get your thoughts on that first. But Ruse and Borges, a love match there, and Andreeva and Rublev. Curious which ones stick out to you, Kim.
I mean, the first one, obviously Novak and Sabalenka is super exciting. I think, we've seen their relationship like over, the last couple of years. I feel like very blossom in a way that very open, very playful, from the dances to, even I feel like the support from both sides. And I think Sabalenka has shared how Novak has, given her given her advice on, how to deal with some of the mental things and things like that. So it's been really nice to see that friendship grow and for them to play together, and for Novak to make that decision. I feel like to play right before is something that I don't think he's done. He didn't play last year, right, at the U.S. Open, that's very interesting to see him take on that approach. Casper Ruud and Iga played last year, right? Did they make the
finals?
Reached
the final. Yeah, they sure did.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Jesse Pegula might need to look for someone else because the chances that Jack is going to be healthy, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Is crazy though, Kim, because if you think back to last year, he wasn't fully fit either. He played mixed, played one main draw match and pulled out. So I feel like it's crazy to think that Draper is still having these major injury issues. It's such a bummer for him. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely a bummer. And just to go into that kind of situation, I feel like, I'm so curious, like how the team is approaching that. And like, I would just love to know, like how, what's happening there. Like, are you the guys turning him inside out so you can see like what's the deal? Like food, is it whatever it is, like recovery, training types? Just very interesting. And I would love to kind of hear and talk, get somebody's input, somebody from the team to talk a little bit about that, because it's so strange in a way for such a great athlete to be injured for so long and to go from one injury to the other. And it almost feels like, okay, what's he doing wrong? Like, and so, yeah, anyway, different. It has nothing to do with mixed doubles, but maybe the US Open organizers are already, looking for maybe a replacement in that spot. And then I was also looking at, I think people were looking forward to Taylor Townsend and Ben Shelton to play together, but that didn't end up happening. I mean, definitely those two are the ones that I'm excited to watch. Just looking on my phone here to the list.
Siniakova and Patton, Kim. Watch the heck out for those two. I know Irani and Vavasori will have something to say about that, but I just think that they are going to be the team to beat, both Patton and Siniakova.
Right.
So fun though, and this doesn't even comprise the whole list. We're obviously going to see, Jannik Sinner is not on this list, nor is Carlos Alcaraz or Venus and/or Serena. Venus played last year with Riley Opelka, so we could see more. We also know that it's been reported that this tournament has been potentially used as leverage for players who still want to see a bigger piece of the revenue pie. Jannik Sinner is the name that was specifically associated with that. But just so people know, the draw will eventually feature 6 teams with the best combined singles ranking, 8 wildcard teams, plus 2 teams that can play their way through the qualifying tournament, which is a new thing, because why not throw in a doubles qualifying tournament to Fan Week at the US Open? That is going to be Monday the 24th. So again, Fan Week remains the best ticket in tennis, and by ticket, I mean it's free. So it's such great value. Obviously, to get into specific events, you are actually buying tickets for those. But I imagine, I'll have to get confirmation, but that qualifying tournament is free admission. And what an incredible way for people to get introduced to the sport.
Blair, have you seen anything about the prize money for the doubles? Is it still, what was it last year, $1 million for the winners? Is it still the same this year?
I have not heard that the prize money is any different.
Because the press release doesn't mention any prize money at the moment. So we'll see if that...
Interesting. So
change.
Could that be part of the bargaining tool? We shall see.
Yes.
But I'm excited. And also, by the way, Kim, it just sort of underscores how difficult it is to make any change in tennis, because just Jannik Sinner saying he's not going to play mixed doubles is not going to move the needle at the end of the day. It's just so difficult to get a bunch of individual athletes to get on board for the exact same thing. So,
and it's only a 2-day event either, like as well, right? So that's, makes it a lot more appealing for the top players, like a Novak that says, okay, yeah, I'll play some, instead of, playing a 2.5-3 hour practice against Zverev, where we play a couple of sets, might as well play some mixed doubles and work on my serve and return and kind of get that routine back, get used to that again. So yeah, it's an interesting format, and I definitely think I would have loved playing it. I always loved playing mixed doubles when I played, and it just took a lot of time away from, when you had the 2-week event, it just took so much time away from your recovery. When I was younger, like they didn't have, the roofs on any of the stadium courts. So a lot of times you were waiting around, and your opponent was already, recovered and done playing and ready for a semifinal of a Grand Slam. So this makes it definitely a lot more appealing to a lot of the top players as well.
Speaking of doubles, Kim, have you seen on social media that DC is doing a whole lot of doubles content on social media? They're doing the mic'd up matches.
I saw that, and I've seen some online clips about the ATP not supporting doubles. I think since, I don't know for how many years, but out of all their posts, it was 1% of doubles that was promoted. Those are pretty harsh numbers, and it definitely opened my eyes up a little bit as well. And so understandable that there's understanding that there's definitely a lot of frustration from a big part of the tennis world.
And I would love nothing more than to think that this discussion has actually changed the way that tennis is covered on social media, that a larger piece of that pie in terms of coverage is going to go to doubles players. Why not see what happens? And then you can go from there. So I thought that was a really neat development. And also, if listeners are wanting to follow more doubles, there are a couple of girlfriends on tour. One is named Ellie, the other Louisa. Ellie Magelli is her handle, but she is covering her boyfriend's doubles career. And I'm telling you, you can learn more about doubles watching her social media videos than probably a lot of other things that you can do online. The other name is Luisa Castillo, who is the girlfriend of one of the Brazilian doubles players, or Orlando Luz. So there are resources out there, and I think if people can sort of get on board, who knows what's possible in terms of popularizing not only doubles, but doubles players.
Yeah, for sure. And it also shows the hard work and the grind that they have to put into, to get to their tournaments. And it's not the private jets, and it's not the luxury hotel rooms. It's a part of the tennis world that, people I think need to see as well, and understand that it's not just all, bells and whistles for the players everywhere. I like seeing that part, and I wish they didn't have to go through that, but it just shows the identity of our sport for a big part as well.
Totally. And just one more quick thing to add to that, Kim. When we initially talked about doubles, I think I made a blanket statement explaining that these tournaments are paying for the players, and I think I might have mentioned physios. Just for clarity's sake, at the tour level, the tournament gives one hotel room per player. So for a doubles team, the tournament is responsible for 2 hotel rooms. So I just want to make sure I had the facts correct on that, which again is still a lot of money when you add it all up in terms of transport and laundry and all the other things, food that players are offered on site. But just wanted to make sure I had the facts right on that. Kim, the next gen has arrived. This is a tweet from Oleg, Anna K Forever on X. He is a fantastic tennis resource if you don't already follow him, but he was tweeting that let's see, Cruz, Hewitt, Ben Shelton, and Martin Dahm Jr. are in the DC draw. And the 1997 Australian Open featured Lleyton Hewitt, Martin Dahm Sr., and Brian Shelton. And to think that it's happening. They are here, they are playing. We're seeing the progeny of these incredible players now competing on their own. How wild is that for you, knowing the parents?
It's crazy. And knowing, how hard it is, right? Like knowing how hard it is to get to that level. And for kids, I feel like at this stage or in this time and day, how do you say that, in this era or in this
day and age?
Yeah,
sure.
Day and age. I feel like it's even harder to commit to a sport and to be fully invested and have no distractions. And so to see that is incredible. And I love seeing it. It's a little bit of the I feel like LeBron Bronny kind of story in the NBA, and maybe we'll get to see it with Tatiana Maria and her daughter in a few years on the women's tour.
Yeah,
that would be incredible, and a first, right, on the women's tour, I guess, right? That would be
at the same time, I think.
Yes,
for sure. Yeah.
So just really fun to watch. And I think Cruz already, he didn't win the Wimbledon juniors, but he won, but he got to the final there, and it's just it's just great to see. And Ben and his dad, like that relationship. I grew up with a dad, but not in the same sport. Like my dad was a good soccer player, football player here in Belgium, and our family was always a little bit in the spotlight already because of my dad. And then when I kind of overtook that kind of fame part a little bit, my dad felt very relieved because he hated it. And I feel like on our situation, it's like, now Jada's doing that. And, I go to her games and like she's signing autographs and I'm like, yes, this is so great. So it's really nice. And I love that for the next generation. And it just shows like how important it is to, to have, the experience, whether it's from a parent or a mentor or whatever it is, like on your side. Like, I think there is nothing more that, that you can teach a kid from a younger generation, like Francesca Schiavone is doing with Lilli Tagger. Like, it's so meaningful to have somebody who's done that before, who's been there, who knows, the kid and can kind of, also, stay very kind of even keel emotionally through it all, right? Because like the stresses that it brings, and I think it's important that like the parents and the people around just like they have gone through it and know how to handle those situations. Because a lot of times there's parents who've never experienced it. They get even more nervous than the kid, and they get so tied up in all this and the stresses and the and the good emotions, but also the bad emotions sometimes. And we've seen the negative side of crazy parents as well on the tennis tour. And so these kind of stories are really nice to see, where I love seeing it. So it's definitely the next gen has arrived.
I have one tennis nerd headline for you, Kim, and that is that the ATP next week at the Lexington Challenger is trialing changing balls at 5 and 7 games versus 7 and 9 games. And at the moment, it is just this 1 week trial at a challenger event in response to complaints, I think it's fair to say, from players about the quality of the balls, about how quickly they wear out. And so the ATP is listening. They are making this, not a permanent change yet, but they're at least going to trial it. And I am curious if you think that is going to turn into something permanent.
Well, I feel like the issue about the tennis balls has been a big issue for a long time, right? Like it's the changes of the tennis balls throughout the the different tournaments and the big tournaments, and I don't know what's the deal there now. Do you know that? Like, are we using the same balls at every tournament?
No, but they have tried to make it so that it's the same chunk of tournaments. So like at the beginning of the year, it's the Dunlop ball. This time of the year is the Wilson US Open ball. So they've tried to make it so that it's consistent in different chunks of the season.
But at least now on the let's say the US Open hard courts, like it's all the same ball.
Yes.
Okay, but a lot of times, when you resurface the courts, right? Like you have the gritty kind of they're a fresh hard court is very rough. Right. It's so the balls will definitely, wear down a lot quicker. And that becomes, more when they get a little bit more fluffy, and it's harder for the shoulder, for the elbow. Like there's, the impact on the strings is so big that, there's you just can't use the slice as well. You can't do the kick serve as well anymore. So it takes away from the quality of the tennis. So I think it's maybe, maybe not a bad idea, especially, on such a rough surface.
Did you have a ball that you preferred?
No. Blair, listen, I would like literally show up at press conferences and get asked about court, like slow courts, fast courts, the balls being heavier, like smaller, bigger. I'm like, what are they talking about? I was like, whatever. Like if I felt like the balls were, if I felt like the depth of my shot, I was like, all right, let me just add a half a kilo to my strings. Like I just wasn't, or I'll just put a little more spin on it. Like that's how my reasoning was. Like, but I just never really thought about like my favorite ball or.
But that probably was to your benefit, that you were not wasting time on something you could not control.
Yeah. I wasn't overthinking it. Like that, definitely not. Maybe I should have done a little bit more of thinking about those kind of things. But I felt like if I had, a couple of like different tensions in my racket bag, like rackets with different tensions, I was like good to go. Like I knew if I, was not playing freely, or if I was like hitting the ball freely and the balls were like a little bit long, I was like, all right, let me go up like half a kilo or a kilo. And then I was like, okay, like my arm is still moving freely, and now they're falling in instead of like a little bit long. And so that was basically my way of thinking. Also, I played with natural gut for, my whole career. And I felt like it was just easier to feel with the natural strings for me. The sound as well. Like I could feel when the sound was off or when my strings lost some tension and for whatever reason that was. So yeah, I just kind of listened to my instinct, I guess, a little bit more than all the proper, numbers and whatever they do now.
Whatever those people are doing. But no, I think it's about time, to be honest. I don't see a world in which this does not become a permanent thing unless there is an objection from the financial standpoint. But I actually texted a chair umpire friend who said that the changing of the balls at 7 and then every 9 games thereafter, that dates back to at least 1990, probably before. He wasn't exactly positive when that change began. The number of things that have changed in terms of racket technology and string technology since then, bonkers. So this does seem like it's keeping up with the other things that have changed in the sport in terms of tools and technology.
Yeah. And will definitely help a lot of players when it comes to like the impact that it has on the shoulder, wrists, elbows. Like definitely will benefit the players.
Can we move, Kim, into my burning questions for you?
Sure.
All right. Well, let's start off by talking about Jannik Sinner, who made headlines when he decided he was not going to be playing in Canada this year. He has won the first 5 ATP Masters 1000s of the year. He had a chance to become the first ever to run the table. He says, no to history. I'm going to rest up and make sure I'm ready to go in Cincinnati and the US Open. Your thoughts?
I think that just shows that he, that maybe there's something going on behind the scenes that we're not ready. Like maybe he's just not physically or mentally ready to, after winning Wimbledon, to go back and just compete again at such an intense high level, right? Because these tournaments are just, if not in a shorter amount of time, like you play a lot of tennis, intense matches, and I think it's a very, very smart choice. And knowing the team around him and Darren, the way that they work, I'm sure they've thought about it enough, like for a while, but then it's always with what's coming up in the back of your mind, like and winning the US Open is obviously going to be his biggest goal for the next few weeks of what's coming up in the States. And if he if he's that's the goal, is to be ready there and not get burned out mentally and or physically, because you want to win another Masters to try and break the record. Like I think he will break plenty of records, or he has been breaking plenty of records. And I think it's just very smart to think about like what's the most important thing and not get distracted by, being the number one to ever do this or that. And I just, I think it's a smart choice, but I'm sure it wasn't easy.
Yeah. And just to give some context on that, thanks to producer Mike, in 2003, when Andy ran the table on the pre-US Open events, so he won in Canada, Cincinnati, and then the US Open, those 3 tournaments spanned 28 days. And in 2026, those 3 tournaments span 44 days. So when you think about the players who are expected to be holding the trophy at the end, and knowing that you could possibly be holding the trophy at the end of those 3 events, that is an exceptionally long period of time to be at peak performance level, because I'm sure you can tell the listeners, Kim, even if you have a day off in between matches, you're still at a tournament. You are not switching off the competitive gear.
No, you still go to practice. You still go to the gym. You have your team with you. You're doing your treatments, your recovery, and you don't have time to do anything else, right? You want to save your energy because it's going to be such a long block. And to me, like, yeah, I know that these tournaments are longer from when I was younger, but it's it's crazy, like to think how many more days they've added. Like it's almost double the amount of time. So it's just, especially towards this stage of the year where we know that at the US Open, players are starting to get a little bit tired. It's been a long year, although a lot of them have gone on vacation, and we've seen the boat trips.
We have noted on this podcast, people have had vacations this year.
Definitely. So but it's just, it's a tough part of the year, I remember, for everybody. And you have, especially, there's a few of the top players who are not making the WTA finals yet, or on the ATP, what do they call it on the ATP side, the ATP finals? Same. That they, a lot of them are trying to play more tournaments than they maybe want to just make sure that they have enough points to get in. And then sometimes there's a race between 2 players to get there and stuff. So it becomes interesting, but at the same time, it's also tiring, stressful, but it's I feel like, to me, it was always, almost the best part of the year was, playing, getting ready for the US Open, and knowing that it was, the last Grand Slam of the year really helped me to push, through a little bit harder, even though you may be tired, or you have some more aches and pains that you just weren't really had the time to let heal throughout the year. And so it's just how you look at it, right? Like some players are like, oh man, I'm tired, it's the end of the year, it's been a long year and I've done well so far. Like for some players that can be a mindset too, where it's harder to push through, whereas I felt like for me, it was like, all right, let's go. Like, let's do well here, and then get ready for the WTA finals. And just always really loved this part of the year. I love playing tennis. I feel like there was never really a part where I didn't enjoy playing. Like, yeah.
I love that.
I just felt very lucky that I got to do all that stuff. Like
that shouldn't sound like a novel concept, but you know, there is a book that just came out. Matt Futterman of The Athletic wrote it, called The Cruelest Game. And he was talking about one of the things that he realized in talking to a lot of tennis players is just how miserable they are. There are a lot of really unhappy tennis players out there. So to hear you say that, I think is counter to some of the feedback that we sometimes get about tour life.
Yeah, no, I just loved playing and traveling. And again, I was also, very young when I started. And I feel like for me, I always tried to have a little bit of normalcy from home by, my cousin Tim was, my physio at the time. And, like for him going to New York was like this big deal. So I could relive it through him and kind of see the greatness of, these tournaments and being a part of it. And so it never really got old. There were definitely moments where it was frustrating when you have injuries and you're trying to come back from an injury and it's not working the way that you want things to go. But I just really, enjoyed the lifestyle and playing and until I didn't. And then I also in my head, like, it's really hard for me then to push through and to, for the years that I played, I really loved it. And then when I was ready to hang up, like there were definitely a few months where I was like, all right, I'm done. Like, this is not the way that I want to compete out there.
They needed to have you on the Netflix documentary Breakpoint, Kim, because that is one of my theories on why that did not succeed. But the other half of that theory is that I don't think the Netflix production staff knew enough about the inner workings and all the various storylines that are knit together to form the tour. But I think the other piece of it was when they started to dig deep into these players' lives, it was kind of lonely and sad. So they needed a little bit of Kim Clijsters sprinkled in.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't think, and like, I feel like now a lot of the players, especially on the women's side, they're so they're close and they have friends and I see them going out and we didn't do that back in the day, I feel like. And it was more like my team, but I was close with my team. And we had the best time. Like, we laughed and we had fun. We knew when to work hard and just to have that balance of like being buddies on the road and acting, like little kids at times, but also like we just had a fun time. And but again, like, you worked hard as well, and that was just as obviously the most important thing, but we never forgot what we were doing and what the goal was. But yeah, it's just it was just I guess installed in me, or I just grew up like that, like just seeing the good and not worried too much about the negative stuff.
Did you consciously think about peaking at the US Open, or was it just, I'm taking it one match at a time, I'm going to try to win every match that's in front of me? Or were you actually thinking about building toward that US Open trophy?
No, whatever match I played, I wanted to win, and I would go into a full split, even if I, was if it was unreachable, and like my team would be like, "Why are you doing this? The U.S. Open's coming up in a few weeks," and but it was just I just always gave it my all, like, and I couldn't even think about like not trying my best in in my matches, and there were definitely matches where I felt like, oh, I was not feeling great or just a little bit exhausted, or, after having Jada, like there were definitely moments where, it was just harder to be fully, like, I wasn't at my best at, giving it my all. But I think in general, like, what I heard the most in my tennis career from when I was a little girl was to take it easy. Like, that's what they always told me. All my coaches were like, take it easy. If I had to warm up my shoulder, or if we had to warm up the smash, like, Carl would be like, Kim, 50% is enough. Like, it doesn't have to be 95% or 100% from the first lob that I'm feeding you. Like, so that was just me, like, from the get-go. And would always run down the balls that were a meter out, just to try to get there. And I've always heard people say, like, it's okay, just don't overdo it. But yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I was going to say something. We're moving on. We're moving on to the next topic. That was great. We talked, Kim, last week about the best and worst tennis advice that we had received. And I then posted that question on my social media. And the one topic that was repeated several times was people talking about the open stance I assume forehand, just in general, they were mentioning open stance. Some people were saying that's the worst advice they had ever gotten, was to try to hit open stance. And some people said the worst advice was not being told they should hit an open stance forehand. And I am wondering, now, granted, we're not talking about people playing on tour here. Much respect to my followers, but I had no professionals answering this question. We're probably talking about rec players. Do you think the open stance is something that someone who's playing, 4 or 5 league tennis needs to be thinking about?
I think when you get to a point where you have to think about, oh, should I hit an open or a closed stand? Like, I think it's so complicated. And I can imagine before you've even hit the ball that you're in your head, like trying to, the positioning of your feet. Like it's for us, it's so normal to talk about, like, because it's automatic pilot. Like we do this with our eyes closed. But I can imagine that for a lot of players, it's like basically like hitting a serve at a certain level. Like there's so many steps to think about. I loved hitting an open stand, especially because Carl used to say that I was like allergic to the net. He's like, why did you like do a close stand and just move into the net, like run forward? And so I gravitated towards the open stance a little bit too fast at times, I think, but I just loved it. Like I felt like I could, with my backhand too, like I feel like I could go down the line with it, like, and surprise my opponent a little bit, because it's kind of an unnatural kind of direction from that position. But then also I feel like I could flick my wrist to hit it, to hit a cross court very well. And so I've always loved hitting an open stand. But I can definitely see that it's very complicated at a certain level. And you have to think about like, ooh, like how should I move? Should I step in here and put my left foot forward on the forehand? Or should I, stick my right foot out and just be in an open stand? And the timing is a little bit different of it as well. So it just changes your whole kind of momentum and your rhythm in the shot. So I don't think coaches at that level need to worry too much about
I always think if you have enough time to be thinking, should I hit it open stance or closed stance? The answer is closed stance. Step in and hit it. If you have time to think about it, you should be stepping in. So if that simplifies it for anyone, I feel like for most people, unless you are playing at the pro level, you are hitting an open stance only if you have to, only if that is the only way you can get your racket on the ball, and it's more of a reaction type shot versus actually trying to do it on purpose, if that simplifies it for anyone.
That does actually, even for me, like to listen. No, I'm dead serious. Like when you play somebody, like I remember when you play Lindsay Davenport or Venus and Serena, like when the ball comes back at you so fast, a lot of times you don't even have the time to, like, it's just literally like a rotation with the hip to the backhand, and you just hit it from there, and you just try to get low enough. Like a lot of times, like that's the position that you try to get into as quickly as possible. But it's definitely, that's a good point, is to just focus on that. If you have time, close stance. If you don't have time, don't overthink it. That's what it all comes down to. Yes, it all comes down to don't overthink it.
And last burning question for you, Kim. On Yelena Ostapenko's social media, which if you all are not following, you are missing out. Someone needs to write her tell-all immediately. She has been posting about ballroom dancing, baking.
Cooking? Yes, I saw that.
Specifically cherry cheesecakes, and also boxing. And I mean, her layers never cease to amaze. She is a tennis onion. And I am just wondering for you, she obviously has several off-court hobbies, but was there anything that you liked to do? Did you crochet in your spare time? Did you go see movies? What did you do to keep your mind off tennis? We know you loved it, but how did you keep your mind off of it when you didn't want to be fully immersed?
Right. So I think I loved it because I had a lot of other distractions, and I loved visiting the cities that we were at. I always looked at, who's performing, like, are there concert? Is there an NBA game? Like, I just always try to, it's not that I would like go out and like Matteo Berrettini, like go to a nightclub. Not like that. Like I enjoyed that.
He might have
too.
Other reasons for going to the nightclub, Kim,
too,
but
that
that's a story for another podcast.
But I really, I just, whatever was around, like, and my first few years on tour, I was very young, and I was supposed to take my like study books, and because I still had to do exams when I came back from my trips. But that kind of I didn't last very long with that. Like sitting in my hotel room and studying wasn't my go-to choice when I was already on tour. So I decided to also have some fun. And I think that's the reason why I enjoyed playing so much, is that I was able to really turn off my tennis brain at times. And my best, like my childhood friend Caroline, she was like 150. We played Fed Cup together. She traveled with me a lot. Sometimes like we played doubles together in Miami, and she would go to some of her smaller tournaments, but like we would still like hang out and we would just have a blast, even if it was just like acting like teenagers in the hotel room. For a few years of my career, I was dating Leighton, and just to have somebody there to learn from, to talk through things when you were struggling, like it just made time go by so fast. And I just really enjoyed it. There's nothing, now that I look back on it, there's really nothing that I didn't like about it. I mean, there were definitely stages again, but it was great.
So if social media existed while you were a player, we would have gotten soup videos much sooner. I'm very sad we had to wait until the year of our Lord 2020.
Right. And especially when we had Jada, like traveling with her, and like literally we had a little baby cook, and like it was a steamer and a blender, and we would, make food and just make, that was like my hotel room smelled like salmon and leek and potatoes. At times, just because we were cooking for her. And then that's just how we did it.
Kim, do you have a recommendation this week for Rec Room?
I do. It's nothing fancy. It just makes me really happy when I come back to Belgium. And you're gonna laugh. This is
I'm already laughing.
My absolute favorite water.
Spa water.
It's from Belgium. It's my favorite water. It's great for little babies and everything in between, like everything above that. And the taste is the best. So whenever it's not available in the States. So when I'm in Belgium, this is all, I have like 12 crates of water. And usually I get the glass bottles, but now I have the plastic one here. But I taste a lot of difference in waters. And
do you know that this is like a subset of social media content, Kim? That there are water snobs out there, and you do blind taste tests, and like people can pick out, this is Ozarka, this is Evian, this is Dasani, this is tap water.
I think I can do that.
Can we please?
No. Oh
Kim,
my God.
The TikTok? US Open, we are doing a blind water taste test. Ella, book it now.
Oh my
God. We'll have to do it
off-site.
We can't do it at the US Open because they're an Evian property. But listen, if Spa wants to sponsor.
Do you have one?
I do. I don't physically have it with me because I have not purchased it as of yet. But I know that many of our listeners are likely going to tennis tournaments this summer. And I was privileged to get to try out the Shark Chill Pill handheld fan. Have you seen these things, Kim?
Listen, no, but I need it. I need it next to my bed here.
Kim needs it
amazing.
At this exact moment. No, it's about this big. So I'm holding up something maybe a little bit bigger, probably a little bit wider than the size of your phone when it's folded up. But it's compact, but it spits out this like cooled air. It's somehow much better than your basic fan. And every tennis fan needs one this summer. It's small, so it's easy to fit in your bag, and it will make your tennis watching experience much improved. Also, it's quiet, which is huge if you're sitting in the stands. You don't want to whip out.
No.
Right? Exactly. So for all of our tennis fans out there, that is my fan recommendation for you. I had the chance to try it, and I highly recommend.
Do you know how much it costs?
It is like $200. It is an expensive fan. I think you can, I was actually looking last night, you can get it on sale. I think I saw some places for like $139, but it's not a cheap fan, Kim. It's an investment. It's an investment in your personal happiness. Your Christmas gift, Kim, is going to be great this year. We've got,
listen, it's going to be winter then.
That's true. Listen, store it away.
Okay.
Kim, this has been so much fun as always. Thanks to everyone for listening. We hope you guys follow us on all of our social media platforms at Love All Podcast. You can comment on Spotify, which is something I learned recently because I am a dinosaur who does not use that platform. Maybe I should be using Spotify, but people can actually comment on the podcast, which I think is really cool. Different than a review. So anyway, this is making me sound like I'm 92 years old, but yes.
I completely get you. My husband sends me songs. He's like, hey, check this song out. I'm like, babe, I don't have Spotify. Like, what are you talking about?
Okay. Well, I'm a step ahead of you. I do in fact have Spotify.
Okay.
Yes. But at Love All Podcast on all the things. If you would like, subscribe, review, we would appreciate it so much. So for Ella and the rest of the team, we will see you guys next week.